Hi folks, welcome to another color process video. Today's comic is one that I am very happy with, to say the least. After the past few weeks of just feeling a bit aimless, to be honest with you, art-wise, I know I said like the last few comics have been, me getting my creative like juices back or whatever, but this is really the first one where I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders, creatively speaking. Um, so yeah, like originally this was not going to be as cyberpunk looking as you can see here. It was going to just be a typical kind of stereotypical looking scientist walking up to some kind of an AI or computer or robot or something like that, and you know everything else you see here in terms of the plot and story would have been the same and the dialogue, but it would have been far more boring looking. Let's just say, um, like I was going to have just the characters standing in a blank room and leave it at that, but I felt I really had to put in some kind of a nice looking establishing shot, quote unquote shot for the first panel. Hence why that first panel is so packed with detail. The reason for all the tubing everywhere is Akira was very much on my mind when I was drawing this because I believe when I was drawing this, it was the 30th anniversary of the release of Akira, the movie, and if you're at all familiar with that movie or the manga upon which it's based, its artist Otomo, I believe Otomo, anyways. I hope I have that name right. Um, he's very much into doing these big, huge tubes and like pipes and things, and I thought that would just look really nice. As for the color, I uh, I knew going in that I'd be giving the Roblox or Roblox as I called it, a big red eye like for that triangle. Everything else was, as I've described before, basically just playing things by ear as I was coloring and just figuring things out as I went along. I originally intended on the scientist or whatever that man is supposed to be having a very colorful looking costume, which I thought would be in fitting with the kind of cyberpunk atmosphere the final comic has. However, nothing nothing really worked for me. It just looked, the colors just didn't seem to fit. So I toned things back and back and back until I actually just made the guy, not just his clothing, but the guy himself, just entirely rendered in various shades of blue, and it ended up looking quite nice. Like originally, I was going to just stick with those colors as kind of a base color while I figured out some other color scheme for him. But something about the cold kind of blue to him kind of worked. It kind of gives the impression that maybe he's standing in a giant dark space, or sometimes there are like science fiction movies that have this kind of that add this cold blue kind of hue to everything. So, for example, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Like if you look at that, like there's a lot of blues in that movie, and not to compare myself to a great like that, but I thought, yeah, that blue looked nice, so I kept it that way. Um, the one aspect that gave me a lot of difficulty was the first panel with regards figuring out what to do with the background colors, because it was so packed with detail, and I was worried that if I had tons of colors everywhere, that it would just look a bit of a mess. Like if you look at this video, I don't know what point you're at right now, but you'll either have seen or will see that the flooring in that first panel was originally supposed to be a kind of a grey color, but just something about it didn't really work for me. So I just toyed with just taking out the color for the flooring entirely, and it looked pretty good. Like I have to remind myself that when I'm coloring that not everything needs to be colored. You know, like just putting in colors for the sake of doing so is the very same as putting in like cross hatching or needless details just for the sake of filling in space. You know, less is more and all that. Um, you'll also notice, moving on from that, you'll also notice with this comic that I didn't actually really add all that much in the way of shading or lighting effects. Just anything I tried just didn't really look good, and I felt that just the kind of the bold colors that were on the page already kind of worked as they were. And besides which, there was so much detail in the artwork that really the actual line work did most of the grunt work, and the colors just helped enhance that somewhat. And I was worried that adding extra bits of shading and lighting and whatnot would really just be, it would just be needless. It looked good as it was, so I left it as it was. So that's really all I have to say about this one. But as I'm sure you can tell by how I'm talking about it, I'm very happy with how it turned out. Definitely one of my favorite pages in a while. So I will talk to you next time. Take care.